just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other. Welcome everybody to a very special edition of Truthseekers, Thanksgiving edition. Coach Nick Davies and the States here. We celebrate Thanksgiving on this day. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
And to you. And to you. I do like this holiday. It's very different for me, of course. But this is probably my, 10th or 12th, something like that. So it's cool.
Aha. How has your experience of Thanksgiving changed over time? Can you remember the first couple or the first one? Has it changed for you?
I think the first one, I was just by myself in my apartment. Going, cool. I get a day off this Thursday. As I was trying to figure out what was going on, I didn't realize that Thanksgiving here is bigger than Christmas, or at least as big. That was intriguing to me. Yeah, so I like it.
Do you find that you do Thanksgiving big now? That's part of the culture here.
It's definitely part of the culture here. I'm fine with it. Yeah, it's like what's not to like? It's like I like it for sure. I like the got in the tradition of doing the turkey trot run. So excited for this Thanksgiving Day to do that. That's always cool. It's nice to not have encumbered by the childhood experiences of a holiday. So come in and kind of make them up. So I've got no expectation. Just get to make it what I want to make it now.
The turkey trot. How long have you done that for?
I think I've done it for 4 years out of the 5 that we've lived here, something like that.
And are you a runner, Coach?
I'm not much of a runner. Do you want the story behind that?
Yeah, we've had some fun with this line the last couple of days. So yeah, give me the details here.
It's actually a bit that I use oftentimes to explain belief systems, because my training history has always been about lifting weights, right? Boom, it's always about lifting weights for me. And then I started to get into martial arts, and part of that is to have a better cardio approach, right? And so I remember my crew said, you should be doing a little bit of running. Okay, I'm not a runner. But well, I had leverage. I didn't like running, so I never ran, so I wasn't good at it, so I wasn't a runner, right? So the cycle was, I'm not a runner, so I don't run. Because I don't run, I'm not a runner. I'm not good at it, so I don't run. And so just cycle around. But I had some leverage to break the pattern. If you run, you'll be better in Muay Thai. It's like, well, okay, then and now you've got my attention. So, and the guidance was no more than 3 miles at a time. So I started to attempt to run around my neighborhood where I lived at the time, and that was like a mile, and it was so challenging to do. And then I did it a little bit more, and then I did a 5K, and then I did a bit more, and I did another 5K. And I noticed that when someone asked me about running, instead of saying I'm not a runner, okay, I don't run, it changed to I'm not much of a runner. And so that's how we bridge beliefs, right? Because the difference between not being a runner to I'm a runner. That's too far of a leap oftentimes, because it's just very binary also. It's like if you wanted to be a runner, I want to run marathons. Like that's a high level runner, let's say. You're on one side of the cliff, you want to get to the other side of the cliff. And there's this big gap in between. It's like you got to create the bridge beliefs that allow you to start to walk across it, right? So from I'm not a runner to I'm not much of a runner, it's closer. But what's my outcome? I don't want to be a runner. But I want to use running as leverage for other things. And this other thing happens to be an experience I want to have on Thanksgiving with my brother and my wife and his brother's girlfriend as well. Something cool to do together, and it sets the stage for the day. and like enjoy the discipline up to it as well. And now I've got like 4 years of history. I want to beat my time.
Aha. So there is some goal setting, something to achieve along the way here.
Exactly.
This is so funny because this is very apropos to a conversation I had with a client today who's struggling with motivation in the gym. And he shared with me, like, I show up and I don't want to be there. It doesn't give me energy. Like the lights are bright. Like I just don't want to be there. I'd rather be somewhere else. And I asked him, has he been an athlete in his life, or did he play sports? I always think about the times where I'm most motivated to work out. There's something attached to it where I can see myself in the future either performing or playing a sport or on some sort of stage where I want to be my best. So I think it's missing. Some people miss that flag in the ground in the future that they can plant. For you in this situation, it's Thanksgiving Day, right? Being able to run the turkey trot. So therefore you want to train. You don't like running. You don't even want to be a runner, but you want to be in a place where you can perform on that day and beat your score. So I think that's important to have to understand that principle, that if we're not motivated about something, then there's ways to make ourselves motivated.
There's always leverage if you're willing to find it. And as a coach, I almost like it more because I don't like it. Like, I don't want to be a runner, but even so, I can still win at that, relatively speaking, right? Like, so I'm not going to win the race, but that's not the point. It's to win more than, like, can I do more at 39 than than I did when I first did it at 35 or 36, whatever it was. And so that's some evidence over time, and it's useful, really useful.
Can you think of another area that you've applied that, either knowingly or unknowingly, or just reflecting on this, to where maybe something you're not thrilled about, but you leveraged? Or when was the last time you had to use leverage in a scenario where maybe you didn't want to do something?
Like with most things, it's like I think it's a continual leveraged experience, right? Some things are more front and center that you can see oftentimes, but everything's about association. If you think about something that's obvious in your life that you do right now, it's because it's in your life all the time and you see it. With back to the environment, right? I think you always need to have leverage. That's intrinsic or extrinsic or a combination of those. That depends on the individual, what's important. But yeah, absolutely. I think it moves, and you can't be everywhere at once, right? So you got to be. That's why, as coaches, we reset the game every quarter, because you can't just set out a game at the beginning of the year and go check in at the end of the year. It's like so many things have changed. Might even be so different that what's important to you at the end of the year is not the same as what was important to you at the beginning of the year. And that could be a wholesale change, or it could be something more specific. But you see it that way, Coach?
I do. I almost want to take the conversation in a different direction based on what you just said there at the end, because I think this is an important subject too. I have a lot of conversations around, sometimes I feel like people chase shiny objects.
Sure.
And like this month something is important, but then this month another thing is important. And that's true in business. But we also know this law of like compounding returns works best when we're so consistent about the same actions over and over and over and over again. So I want to get your thoughts on that principle, because there seems to be times when it's right to apply, or maybe specific things that it's right to apply it to. But you also don't want to lock yourself into too much structure with that, and have flexibility to be able to accommodate other important things along the way. I just think there's something there with that, because there was some frustrations with a client that I was coaching recently that we're not getting results. Well, we show up and focus on something different every single time. So we need to have something that's most important, that drives everything else. And that if that's not okay, we talk about that every single time, because we need to get it to a spot that's okay before we can talk about anything else. So I'm just curious if I could get your thoughts with that. How do you see that principle working out in these different scenarios?
Yeah. If you're everywhere, you're nowhere. What the thought analogy of this that's been popping up lately, and I remember the Guy Ritchie film Snatch.
Yes.
we know there's a bit where they're in the caravans and like they're watching the greyhound chasing the hare, like the dog chasing the rabbit. Like I think it's that, right? But that's the image that's in my head. But it's like if the greyhound's after the one rabbit or the hare, there's the chance that it might get it. It's still got to outrun it, outmaneuver it. But if there's now two hares, what's likely going to happen? They're going to get neither. Like
Right.
which one gone? And so yeah, like I have clients like that all the time. Shiny object syndrome. Well, this is the best thing. This is the best thing. So like that's great because that's a big strength because you can see opportunities. But if we're thinking about the one of the tools we use, MindScan, that probably be a big clarity on top of practical thinking, all the way to the top,
Action.
where just action for action's sake. And so, is it tied to the actual result that you want long term? So, what do you find is a good antidote for that for clients to get more grounded, but also honor that strength because it is one.
Yeah, I think stick with the MindScan theme. If action is up, which one do you think is down, Coach?
Probably structure.
Well, I was going to say the other one. Sometimes what I see is it can be either, right, and it can be both. But
right.
that relationship between action and the way people feel about it, like you can steamroll over and just be taken act, and you have no gauge or temperature of how other people exist in the organization. So you could be thinking that you're getting all these results, and people are like resenting the hell out of you because they can't keep their head on straight. That's what's happening in this particular scenario. Is that we're getting results here. It's like I don't have a life. I'm having to relearn all these different things because so many new things are being thrown at me that I can't even practice the principle of consistency because it's just like it's a mess and there's too much freedom going on. There needs to be more structure. So there's your structure right there. So probably both of them are down, right? If action's up.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, but you can't. I mean, it obviously depends on the extremes of it, for sure. Yeah, so then you've got the leverage, right? So if that person's slightly higher on the people front, you'd be like, man, you're moving real quick and like jumping different things. But what do you think this means for the people in your life? If their people is lower and they're higher on the structure, there's maybe some leverage there. It's like, tell me how you think about this in a structured sense.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that'll bring them back around again. But it's also really useful.
The reason I like that question is because that's probably what they're overlooking. So that's the superpower. Slow down. I know there's resistance. We want to go act. At least you showed up. This is 30 minutes on our coaching call here that you're not acting on something. But like,
slow down. Yeah.
What's the structured approach to that? Yeah. And just get them thinking about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because even that's putting parameters around it sometimes, right? It's like, but you can also see that with high structure when they're thinking about it. So it was just the difference it would show up. It will be just thinking too much and no action. It's the same blockage, if you will. Just the opposite thing is happening.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about too. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm in my head thinking of all these things, theorizing, but I haven't put enough parameters around it to take the action. So so then you actually use more structure. Yeah, because if you got something that's in a box, right? Like there's your box, like that's useful structure. It's not going anywhere. But if you put extra layers on the outside of it, just like make it like armor on the outside, it becomes not useful anymore because you can't get to it. So that's when you go to that extreme on the structure. If you're very structured, then you can't even access what you're trying to structure around because you just can't get there anymore. All you can see is structure for structure's sake.
Yes.
Then you get to that paralysis.
That's what I was going to say. If you look at the way the MindScan is laid out, right? Relator, doer, thinker. You start from the right, and it's always for the sake of what's on the left. So the structure is for action's sake. Well, the action is for people's sake, right? We want to take action to get results so we feel good about it. So the structure is there so we can take the action. The action is there so that we can feel like we're making progress.
Yeah.
And that's how Hartman came up with his like what's most valuable. What's most valuable is the way that we feel and who we are, because the actions are always intended to improve that, and structure is there just to put something in place so that we know that we're taking the right action.
And it's a beautiful thing, right? And
Piece of
just
cake.
having
We solved it.
go and eat some turkey. Go and eat some turkey. That's what you need to do.
I'm on my second nap of the day, Coach, already here.
Yeah. That's why you're so articulate right now.
Right. I got the post-turkey clarity going on here.
Well, maybe on that note, Coach, give me your takeaway here. What's the thing that you take into this afternoon's turkey slumber?
Yeah, I'm just looking over my notes here. This is maybe the first episode in a while that it hasn't hit me, or I can't steal something from you that you just said recently. So I'm pretty sure there's an episode titled this before, and you've mentioned this before, but bridge of beliefs is not something that is in my vocabulary a lot. And I love that, because that is a very action-oriented way to get from a place where we are to where we want to be, identity-wise. And your runner example is such a perfect example. There's no way that you can go from I'm not a runner to like I love running and I sprint every day and I am such a runner. It just doesn't happen that way. And I think if we can fool ourselves by trying to use mantras or even affirmations. I love running. I love running. Like maybe like over time that might be the case, but there is a bridge. There is a progressive incremental step to get to the next incremental step over time. And that's what today's whole conversation was about anyway, is just that progression to get to the next level here.
Yeah, and I think all of those things are helpful tools, right? But it's a check-in to go where do you want to go with this, and to see where you are, right? So that's what we do fundamentally. Where are you? What's really true? That's actually harder, I think, sometimes than where do you want to go. But you got to be honest with yourself for both of those, and then they're tied together, right? Like the chains in a football game. You only know that you can only move along when you know that there's always 10 feet between them. And so you're constantly checking in to see like where am I, but where do I want to go? Do I want to get to that first down? In my case, my scenario, I don't want to be a runner. Like that doesn't do much for me. But I want to leverage it the minimum effective dose, right? So I already essentially got my outcome. But if you like, I want to run marathons, like you absolutely can. And then all of those tools will be helpful, and the bridge beliefs along the way will be as well. You know, it's all part of that combination.
Love it. Coach, thank you. Yes, for another riveting edition of Truthseekers, Thanksgiving edition. And I love an American football reference on Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truthseekers. We appreciate your interaction. So please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks. See you again next time.